What's up, folks, and welcome to another Indie Showcase. I got something really interesting for you today. I actually streamed a whole bunch of this, and I've said this before, it's not often that I both stream an indie game and make a video of it, but this one really warrants it, I think. It was really quite a surprise to me. This is Mind Scanners, and the reason that this initially caught my attention is because it's actually published by the studio who originally developed one of my favorite indie games of 2020, which was the fantastic Yes, Your Grace. Highly recommend checking that out if you haven't. It's actually on Game Pass for PC and Xbox, so it's very easy to check out if you want to do that. Really good game with a lot of tough choices in it. And this is very similar. This game is, you can tell that this was really inspired by Papers, Please, but it's not a Papers, Please clone by any measure. It really has its own identity. And it's quite interesting and requires some choices that really made me sit back and think for a little while. It's interesting. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got two saves here, one of which is very, very early in the game to show you the very base concepts of how it works, because I don't really want to spoil any key plot points. And then there's a later save where I have a lot more mechanics involved, and I'll sort of show you how that works to show you how it evolves. Because it's very interesting. I've not finished this yet. I've not done a run of this. Like Papers, Please, this is a game where you could do a ton of different runs of it and get a ton of different outcomes. So the idea behind this is that you are in it's not a cyberpunk dystopia, but it is some kind of dystopia where I believe humanity is primarily living underground. And you're being controlled. What's left of humanity is being controlled by this AI that is really, really keen on keeping humanity in check, especially from a mental perspective. Also, it has that really creepy moving speaker thing that talks to you. And what it wants you to do, you have been tasked as what's called a mind scanner. There's a bigger plot line involving your kidnapped daughter and things like that, and that's kind of why you're doing this, is to try to get to your daughter. But the idea is that there are people in the world that this AI has deemed has mental problems of some description. You're supposed to travel to them, scan their situation to see, and then you have to make a determine if they actually do have a mental problem, and if you do, you have to basically zap the insanity out of them. Yeah, it's a little screwed up. And some of the choices that you have to make are really, really gnarly. So you see here at the start of a day, you'll be given multiple people you have to go to. You only have a certain amount of time in a day in which to complete your objectives. Once it's done, that's it, your day is done. You can't extend it. But if a person is not fully treated, you can go back to them the following day. But if you have to do that, you take a penalty. You get paid for each successful treatment, and you have a maintenance fee every day. If you run out of money, it's game over. So that's the idea here. So we're going to go see this person. So you go see them, you get here. It all takes place pretty much in variants of this one screen. It's very simplistic from a visual perspective, though I do find its art style quite striking. It will also randomly generate these people, it seems, because these are not the same people that I dealt with in my initial playthrough of the game. So you get a little description of the person here. And all of these people have different struggles. Some of them are very clearly, out there. Others are really not, and you have to really determine what's happened. You have to really make a judgment call based on that. Because also, if you declare a person sane and they weren't, you'll get heavily penalized for that. The AI holds you responsible for the outcome of these things. So let's tell her to calm down because we're going to do the scan. You can see here this meter went up. So yes, there's a stress meter in this. If you don't do your job properly, you can stress the person out. And if you stress them too much, your treatment has to end and you have to come back later. But there's also more elements to that as well. So the first thing you have to do on anybody is a mind scan. So this is a little Q&A thing, and it's kind of interesting. They get these sort of Rorschach drawings, and you have to determine from that what they're seeing. I find, at least at the point that I've gotten to in the game, this is not very difficult. Basically, if you get one of the questions wrong, you lose some units of time. You have to do 3 of these. But I found a lot of these are really easy. Like, the choices that it gives you are often very obvious. So let's see here. But he's different, not like any other child. He's a social boy. He's a machine. He's my biomechanical little boy. He is struggling. I feed him Zingoka, and he smiles. So you see, She's either an engineer, she dreams her son is a robot, or the radio phone, which is the thing the AI talks to you through, is her son. I mean, it's pretty obvious what the right answer is there, right? So you see we got one. You can also skip this ahead if you want. See, again, pretty easy. I've screwed up a couple of these. Some of them are not too obvious, but I have found this part's a little easy. Even several hours into the game, I've never found it particularly difficult. So, believes in biotech evolution. There. So we got it. So we got a perfect scan. So we didn't lose any time here. So, now it's going to tell us she is convinced that her unborn child is a robot. She is afraid that the structure will take him from her, as she believes that the only one who will give him the Zingolka needed for his survival. So I have to declare her insane or sane. If I declare her sane, I still get paid, but a much less amount. And again, if something happens later and she's insane, that comes back on me. Also, much like Papers, Please, you'll regularly be given weird choices, like help this person out and something may happen later on kind of thing. There's also a resistance organization you can choose to work with. I actually wanted to do that and then screwed up the conditions that they wanted. So they said, well, screw you then. So there are a lot of different paths to take and a lot of different endings in this, much like Brave at Night's past game, which was Yes Your Grace. So we're going to declare her insane so that I can show you the procedure here. Her condition is robophytosis. Yeah. So she has 2 different types of insanity that we have to clear, and she has 5 of them. And that's very relevant to what happens in the game here. So what's going to happen is, so there's the stress bar, and then there's the personality bar. So where you have to be very careful here is that you don't, if you screw up the mini game here to sort of take the insanity out of them, you can overstress them. Alternatively, if you're too good at it and don't balance your treatment, you'll suck out their personality and you'll basically turn them into like a husk, which is okay. You won't get penalized by the AI for doing that, but you're doing a really terrible thing to somebody, and that will also, it could have a penalty with you later on in other elements. Let's just put it that way. And yes, your Psychotron device, which is the mini game that you have to use to take out the insanity, becomes more and more unstable as you get on, and therefore harder to do. So there's another device thing. We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so let's get this started off here. All right, so let's get this started here. So we've only got the one treatment option right now, and you can see here that we have the different lines of things that we have to take, the insanity that we have to take out, and the timer's ticking now. So we're going to drop this in, and you can see that this thing has already started to malfunction. So what you got to do down here is choose the symbol that matches the next one in line, which is this. And then this is a timing mini game. Now, it's pretty easy right now because we've only got this one malfunctioning thing. You want to get this as high as possible to try to zap this thing out in as few rotations as possible. But you can see if you screw it up and you hit the red zone, you stress them. But if you don't bring the thing up high enough, it won't do a lot of treatment and it's going to need more shots. So you really want to try to time that to get it as high as possible without also causing damage to the patient. It's a really interesting little concept. And later in the game, when this thing starts to really malfunction, it can become really, really gnarly. So there we go, we did it. And you see, we really did pull down her personality there, but we didn't destroy it entirely. So that's a good thing. There are ways you can counter this later, and you're going to have to if you want to pursue certain story arcs in this. So you see, we basically zapped the insanity out of her, and maybe we did a good thing, maybe we didn't. Maybe we did in the short term, maybe in the long term. I don't know. We're going to have to see. And this is how things progress. You have to go through the day treating all these different individuals, treating as many in a day as you can to get to have enough money to survive. And again, your incentive is to declare everyone insane. And you can do that if you want. If you want to just say, you know what, I'm in this for me, I don't care. And you know, I just want to declare everyone insane and get as much money as I can, you can do that. But if you want to have a higher moral compass, I guess, then you're going to have to really balance your resources and see if you can do it, because your ultimate end goal in this is to get to your daughter, and that requires pleasing the AI master as much as possible. And there, like I said, there are other narrative branches that will happen throughout that you can unlock that can do even more interesting things. This is really not a game you're going to want to play once. You're going to really want to play this multiple times to be able to see everything. And this is really the core concept of it. This is what you're going to do the majority of the time. You're going to do most of your gameplay in this thing. I really think the audio-visual aesthetic of this is very cool, but this is a very simple game in terms of its presentation. The nice thing, though, is that this will also run on a potato, so you could run this on a very old computer or, you know, a work laptop or something like that. Very good for lo-fi gaming, which is something I can often appreciate. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to load up my profile where I am much further in and show you how complicated the game can be. Now, the one thing that this game does do is it gives you an out. Papers, Please, in games like that, you can't go back in time. You have to live with your choices. Now, to be fair, it's optional in this one, but it does allow you to kind of cheat the system by rolling back the clock to make yourself, if you're like, I really don't like the way that day went, you can go back in time and undo it. I don't think you should. I think the real point of these games is to own your choices, but you do you. So we're not really rewinding here. This day is at day 21, so we're going to go back to the beginning of that day. So this is a news thing that happens. So I'm going to skip ahead here, and I'm going to show you guys what the treatments can be like here. So this is a guy whose treatment was in progress. So I had to stop at the end of the day. At the point that I'm at in the game, you won't, some of the people you have to treat, it's a miracle if you'll be able to pull it off in a day, a single person in a day. But this is what's neat. You can have multiple treatments going at once, and if some of the people that you have to treat are closer by than others, you can kind of sort of juggle your time resources and have multiple people on the go at once. And I suspect that will become very critical later on. But it's going to be tricky. Now you're going to see I have all these other devices here now. Yes, indeed. So you can research a whole bunch of different treatments and upgrades later, which you do by spending not only some of your monetary resources, but your time as well. So you have to potentially blow a lot of a day on R&D, but you can get these devices that are different mini games that will allow you to sort of rapidly take out certain types of insanity. You can see they all have symbols here. And there's also other things you can get that will do things like convert personality into science, which is one of the meters here that you use to level up. This is sort of the main resource that you use to advance your story progression. Money is what you survive with. This is what you use to sort of impress the AI. But you can do things, removes all stress and personality even after max stress. You know, restores full personality. This will be very important for certain things. Removes any insanity points, but also stresses. So you see, you have a lot of different options. And you also have drugs that you can buy, which are really cheap one-use items to remove certain side effects from people. But you can see some of them may have side effects. There's a lot to juggle in this. There really, really is. And I think it's really, really cool. And the concept of this whole thing is just, in this dystopian story that they're telling here, is very interesting. So we're going to resume a treatment in progress here. Now, what these different mini games do is they'll take out different types of insanity in a row. So you see, for example, we've got 2 here. So I'm going to bring up this one. And this one's one where I believe you have to match a symbol. The game, by the way, doesn't tutorialize any of this stuff. Okay, so I think I have to tell it how many of these symbols are here. And I got it wrong. Well, bugger. I think it's just 1. Yes, there we go. And you see, by completing that minigame, it took out those 2 symbols. Now, for this one, we only have 1, so we want to do that and go like this. This next one is 2, but we don't have the R&D for that, so we got to do this fully through. And you'll see some of these things have other effects going on them that will affect when you can actually take them out. Like, it's gnarly. There's, like, things in this can get really, really tricky, really, really fast. And you can see we're probably going to run out of time on this guy. So let's take this out. You can also take things out in different orders, by the way. So you can see, like, for example, we have this one again. So we can actually choose to use this, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be dealing with the symbol that's in the first position. I think there's only one. So you can see this is getting really tricky. Now I want to show you some of the other mini games here, but hang on a sec. So let's go to this one, and then we'll go to this one here. This is an audio. This is an audio one. Every one of these is really different. So this is match the tones. There, we got it. So you see, and each of these is a very different type of mini game. And like I said, the game, so we ran out of time again. But the game doesn't give you any tutorializing on any of these mini games. You've just got to figure it out as you go. And I actually really like that. There's very little tutorial in this at all. So you see, we lost 7 there, and we didn't complete it. So, oh, something's happened. You know, it's a man holding a sign saying, reject the mind canners. They control our thoughts. Let's just ignore him. Uh-oh. Mind canner. Let's just keep ignoring him. So we'll try to go back here again. I'm being very careful in this video because I really want to show the concepts of this game without giving too much away in terms of story and that, because it's really important, and it's really important that people learn this on their own as they go, in my opinion. So yeah, unfortunately, this guy doesn't have a lot of variance in the game, the mini games that he has, but I want to sort of give you. I think that's 4. Oh crap, we overstressed him. Treatment must end. Yeah, we're kind of screwing this guy up. All right, let's go check out another one. But each of those different technologies that you research unlocks a different mini game that will show you a different way, that will give you a different way to treat people, but you have to learn how each of them works. And you can only have so many of them equipped at one time. So you really have to balance all that. Like, there are so many things that this isn't just a game about making one decision at a time. You have to balance so many things. You have to balance time. You have to balance science. You have to balance your money. You have to balance your investment in some of these other technologies. You have to balance your morals. You have to be like, do you want to declare this person sane and potentially hurt the world, or go against the will of the machine because you think it's the right thing to do? Or do you want to just declare everybody insane and say, screw it, I'm taking my money, but potentially destroy the lives of people who doesn't want, or to potentially destroy the lives of people who you don't believe deserve it? It's really, really interesting. Much like either Papers, Please or this War of Mine, or indeed the game that Brave at Night developed as opposed to published, Yes, Your Grace, this is all about hard choices. You know, misery simulator is the term often used. And this is not going to be for everybody. Some people don't like having to make difficult moral choices. Some people don't like the idea of the stress of all these things, being under time pressure, being scared of making the wrong choice. This gives you a little bit of an out because you can rewind your day, but there we go. But you got to be into this genre, but a lot of people are, and if you are, I think this is a fantastic example of it. And I just find the story of this a little bit interesting about how, Brave at Night only made one game. They made Yes, Your Grace, which was a fantastic game. And then they decided to get into publishing. And then they found this game, which is very much in their wheelhouse. But it's just a very interesting story how this came to be. And like I said, you can tell that this game wears its Papers, Please inspiration on its sleeve, but it's not Papers, Please. It's something... It's very much has its own identity, you know. Papers, Please, in many ways, almost spawned a genre. And I think it's very cool that somebody's managed to come up with this one. So here, let's try this one. Oh yeah, this one's weird. This one, you gotta like make these weird little skin thing. You gotta make these little skin bubbles and you gotta make them vibrate at their highest speed. This one kind of freaks me out a little bit. Oh shoot, and that guy had a, I believe that's called a mind bomb, where basically if you don't take it out in time, it causes it. This one's super weird. You have to do it with their vocal cords, and you have to turn this up as fast as possible, but if you turn it too fast, you strain them. This one freaked me out the first time I did it. I'm like, what the heck? I just, didn't like that. So there it said wrong device, insanity type not found. So we're gonna try to take out that first before it pops. Except it's trying to take out the two in front of it, so that's not gonna go well. Oh crap. You see how crazy this gets? It just gets, it gets a little banana cake sort of right off, you know, right off the bat with this guy. And I'm not that far in yet. Like, this is only gonna get worse. So you get the idea. I highly doubt I'm gonna get to the last day of this on my first run without rewinding a whole bunch. And again, you can do that or not. I personally don't recommend it, but I like I said, I think you need to own your choices in this, but you know, it depends about your time, right? So, oh my. So that was the guy I was trying to treat there, where I screwed it up and overstressed him. Yeah, he got kicked out. So this is some underground habitat here where the rest of the world is, you know, a barren wasteland, and people who don't live up to the AI's expectations get booted out. Oops. Yeah. So there you go. And you see, I got a fine for neglecting my duties. So now I'm really down on money, and if I hit 0, I'm gonna get the boot too. So you can already see what this involves with. Like I said, I really didn't want to show too much of this because I really don't want to spoil the discovery, which is really what you guys need to do if you're going to play this. I wanted to give you a little idea of this because if you're into this kind of game, I think this is one you really should check out. And I just wanted to show you why it feels like that type of game a lot, but also showcase why it's different and why I think it's is definitely not a clone of what came before it. And it's something worth checking out. If you're not into this genre, this will not sell you on it. If anything, this is more stressful than some of the alternatives you have available, like Ashwalkers, for example. But I'm really enjoying this. I really intend to finish it. I am a big fan of games like Papers, Please, and the developers behind this came up with a really cool concept, and there's clearly some design talent at work here. And I definitely think this is worth your time. So, yes, indeed, that is Mind Scanners. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think this is something really worth checking out, and I hope we can get some more eyeballs on it. So thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you liked what you saw here, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, do all the YouTube-y things. Tell some other people about it. Tell people that we're here talking about cool indie games. I really do appreciate that. And leave a comment down below. Have you played this? What do you think of it? Do you know other good games in this genre that I maybe haven't talked about? There's actually quite a few out there that have flown under the radar, and I would love to see those because I adore games like this, and I really would like to find more of them. So thank you very much, everyone, and as always, you can also find me multiple times a week over at twitch.tv/pxabstraction doing all kinds of variety streams, including of other indie games that you might not find here as well. So lots of things to check out. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you on the next episode of Indie Showcase. You folks have yourselves a good one. Take it easy.